Now that we have our pieces mapped out, in this video I'm going to show you how to safely cut your fur and your cotton. Working with fun fur is a huge mess. With every cut you make, little pieces become airborne. It gets in your mouth, gets in your nose. So before we cut today, I'm going to put on my mask. So step 1, make sure your fur is first side down. Hold the fabric solid on one side. I find that when you cut against the grain, you do less damage to the fur. Always small cuts.
Hooray!
Really clean, really even, minimizing the mess. If you don't make small cuts and you make big, chunky cuts, you can see how quickly you'll damage the fur.
Uh-oh.
There are many times when you have to cut against the grain. Just make smaller, consistent cuts. And I find anchoring it helps a little bit, so you can pull the scissors with tension. Every time I cut, I'll clean up the line. If you clean as you go, you'll minimize the mess overall. Cut that again in half. With my X, you can see I know exactly where to cut. Clean up the edges and keep your space tidy. I definitely recommend cleaning as you go. Curved edges can be a little tricky, so we'll start with the flat edge first. Again, make sure you have a good strong base. Small cuts. We have a really generous seam allowance, so there's no reason to cut outside of it. Cut it right on the line. Small cuts are really easy to do with these spring-loaded scissors. They're ergonomic and your hand doesn't get as tired. Now, this seam and this seam we're going to hand sew. These are going to be exposed, so you want to keep this as clean as possible. And if possible, also cut out your Sharpie lines, because those will show up. This part we're going to fold up, so be careful with your cuts. This is going to be visible. If you can, cut out your Sharpie lines. let's move on to cutting and marking our cotton.